There are murderers who become household names, and then there are killers so twisted, so carefully hidden behind charm and deception, that their stories almost vanish into history. Today, we're uncovering the chilling life of a man who built an entire building designed for manipulation, torture, and death. His name was H. Holmes, America's forgotten serial killer. Stay with me as we explore the lies, the victims, the infamous murder castle, and why so much of Holmes' story continues to be shrouded in mystery. Herman Webster Mudgett was born in 1861 in small-town New Hampshire. To neighbors, he was a quiet, intelligent boy. But beneath the surface, there were early warning signs, signs that only became obvious once the world learned who he truly was. Schoolmates later recalled that Herman had a morbid curiosity about death. According to a popular story, one Holmes denied, children once forced him to touch a human skeleton in a doctor's office. Many believe this moment sparked his lifelong fascination with anatomy. As he grew older, he developed something even more dangerous, the ability to manipulate. He learned that confidence and charm could outweigh suspicion, and Herman was very charming. By the time he attended medical school at the University of Michigan, he had discovered a new talent, using dead bodies for profit. Holmes stole cadavers, staged fake accidents, and used them to claim life insurance money. This wasn't a desperate act. It was calculated. It was deliberate. And it showed exactly who he was becoming. After bouncing around various jobs and scams, Herman Mudgett disappeared, and in his place emerged a new identity, Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. Holmes arrived in Chicago in 1886. The city was booming. Businesses were expanding. The population was exploding. And Holmes, he saw opportunity. He secured a job in a local pharmacy owned by an elderly couple. Before long, both owners mysteriously vanished. No bodies were ever found. Holmes simply took over the shop, no questions asked. And with steady income and a fresh start, he began planning something far more ambitious than anyone could have imagined. Holmes purchased a plot of land just across the street. To the public, he was building a hotel for the upcoming 1893 World's Fair, an event expected to bring millions of visitors. But this hotel was unlike anything America had ever seen. Holmes designed it in secret, firing workers constantly so no one understood the full layout. Walls were built, torn down, and rebuilt. Rooms were reshaped, hidden, or connected to nowhere. Only Holmes knew the final blueprint. Inside this nightmare of a building were rooms with no windows, hallways that abruptly ended, doors that locked from the outside, airtight chambers with gas lines, hidden staircases, soundproof vaults, chutes that led straight into the basement, and a basement filled with a crematorium, acid vats, and surgical tables. To outsiders, Holmes was a businessman, a doctor, a charming smile in a booming city. But behind the walls he controlled, he was building a trap. The 1893 World's Fair, also known as the Columbian Exposition, transformed Chicago. Millions visited the city. Thousands needed lodging. And Holmes, he welcomed them warmly. Too warmly. Guests would check in, and some never checked out. But not all of Holmes' victims were travelers. Many were women he charmed with promises of love, marriage, or employment. He seduced them, isolated them, and once trust was established, they vanished. Employees mysteriously disappeared. Tenants vanished without a trace. Holmes always had an explanation. They'd moved away. They'd gone back to family. They'd changed their minds and left suddenly. The truth? They were locked inside the deadly maze he controlled. Holmes wasn't just a killer. He was a master manipulator. He studied people the way a scientist studies insects, and he knew exactly how to get what he wanted. He wasn't motivated by passion or rage. His motives were far colder: profit, control, power, and the thrill of deception. Holmes knew society trusted educated men, refined men, men who appeared respectable. He used this trust as a shield, and behind that shield, he was evolving into one of the most prolific killers of his time. Some historians believe Holmes didn't kill in fits of passion, but rather saw murder as part of a business model: use victims for money, property, or insurance, then dispose of them. It was efficiency turned deadly. This is where the story becomes foggy. Holmes confessed to 27 murders, but several people on that list were later found alive. In other confessions, he claimed 100 victims, then 50, then nothing at all. He lied constantly. He manipulated investigators, the press, and even the public after his arrest. Modern researchers estimate anywhere from 30 to over 200 possible victims, but there is no definitive number. Why? Because the murder castle burned down shortly after Holmes' arrest. Because Holmes used chemistry and fire to dispose of remains. And because he was careful, very careful, to leave no evidence behind. Holmes controlled every aspect of the environment, and that gave him control over the narrative. What ultimately brought Holmes down wasn't murder. It was fraud, one insurance scam too many. His final scheme involved killing a business partner, Benjamin Pitzel, and attempting to claim life insurance. But Holmes made a critical mistake. He underestimated the dedication of the investigators chasing him. Detective Frank Geyer followed Holmes' trail across multiple states. What he discovered was horrifying. Holmes hadn't just killed Pitzel. He had also killed 3 of Pitzel's children. This revelation shattered any illusion left around Holmes' character. The charming doctor had revealed his true nature. In 1894, Holmes was arrested. Holmes' trial in Philadelphia became national news. Reporters described him as calm, articulate, even charismatic. He spoke with confidence, smiled often, and showed no remorse. Despite the mountain of evidence and the growing number of missing persons linked to him, he behaved as if he believed he could talk his way out of anything. At one point, he claimed his own appearance was changing, that he was slowly turning into the devil. Whether this was manipulation or madness, we may never know. Holmes was eventually convicted and sentenced to death. On May 7, 1896, Holmes was led to the gallows. Witnesses reported he remained eerily calm, even polite. When asked for final words, he simply said he'd never committed the murders. Moments later, the trapdoor opened. But even his execution carried one last twist. Holmes' neck did not break. Instead, he slowly strangled for nearly 20 minutes. One final disturbing chapter in his macabre story. He was buried in a coffin filled with cement, at his own request, supposedly to prevent grave robbers from disturbing his body. Ironically, this was the most normal decision he ever made. Shortly after Holmes' execution, the murder castle went up in flames. Some say it was arson. Others say it was an accident. The truth has never been proven. But with the destruction of the building, much of the evidence disappeared forever. To this day, historians debate, was the murder castle truly a purpose-built torture factory? Or did newspapers exaggerate its horrors to sell copies? How many victims did Holmes really kill? And how much of his legend was created by his own lies? One thing is certain, he left behind more questions than answers. Despite his crimes, Holmes slowly drifted out of public memory. Why? Because his era was dominated by bigger events, world wars, economic disasters, political upheavals. His crimes, though disturbing, were overshadowed by history. It wasn't until books, documentaries, and renewed investigation in the 21st century that Holmes re-emerged as one of America's earliest and most terrifying serial killers. Holmes exploited trust, manipulated the vulnerable, and preyed upon a city welcoming millions of visitors. His legacy is a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes, it looks like a kind smile, a white coat, and a neatly pressed suit. His story teaches us to question appearances, to understand how easily charisma can mask cruelty, and how danger can hide in the places we least expect. Thank you for watching. If you found this story gripping or disturbing, or both, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me which true crime story you'd like covered next. This has been the story of H. Holmes, America's forgotten serial killer. A man whose legacy, even today, remains shrouded in shadows.